Okay, we're here with another episode of How I Got My Job from the American Indian Family Center. My name is Joaquin Lapointe. I am the Youth Empowerment Specialist here. And today we're joined by Dyani White Hawk to share about how I got my job and more to come from her. So, with this, I'll pass it over to Dyani White Hawk to introduce herself.
Takiapi. My name is Dyani White Hawk. I am Sicangu Lakota. I'm a visual artist based in the Twin Cities area. I have a studio in Minneapolis and I live in Shakopee. Um, I am, so as I said, a visual artist. My studio practice is based predominantly in painting, but I do mixed media works as well that incorporate beadwork and porcupine quill work, sewing and leather work, and really mix the histories and materials of easel painting and abstraction, as well as the history and medium of Lakota art forms. I also have done work as a curator and spent just under 4 years curating at the All My Relations Gallery. And I do independent curatorial work from time to time, as well as the visual art that I create.
And Diani, what was your journey like to get to a place where you're doing this work? What kind of steps did you get to this place of being a visual artist, um, and where your work is seen by others, felt by others, and also to kind of cross into different industries? I would say with your artwork, and what was that like?
It wasn't a short journey. It was, a long lifetime pursuit. I One thing that I think is important to understand is that, we come from a extremely creative population of people. There are so many artists within our communities, so many creative people and minds, and that comes out in a really wide array of exploration and practices. And I have always, since I was young, creating has always been my favorite thing to do. Even as a kid, my favorite toys or pastime was making things, out of cardboard boxes or whatever was around. And I didn't necessarily, when I was younger, in my early, you know, high school years and before I really started college, I didn't fully understand that an artist was who I was or was my calling. Luckily, I have a really supportive mom, and she would tell me time and time again, Deanna, you're an artist, and one of these days you'll believe me. And I remember always just being like, yeah, okay, mom, thanks. But it wasn't until I really took that on and started pursuing it. And honestly, it wasn't until I sold my first piece that I really believed her that that was who I was, or what I was called to do. So I did a lot of art classes in high school, as many as I could, and was always drawing and sketching. And then it took me about 6 years after high school before I decided it was time to go to college. So I had a long break there where I was delivering pizzas and snowboarding and I don't know, enjoying my youth. And then once I started college, I went to Haskell Indian Nations University in Lawrence, Kansas. I I went ahead and I got my associates in elementary education because I thought maybe at some point I would want to teach art. And so I got my associates and then eventually transferred to the Institute of American Indian Arts and finished my bachelor's degree in fine arts there. After I learned the possibilities of what's available in scholarship and grant monies. And I learned that while I was at Haskell. I didn't, before I started college, I didn't really understand that there was scholarships and grants that I could be pursuing to help fund my college. And so when I was at Haskell, I learned how to fill out those applications, learned how to, I got good grades so that I would be a good candidate for those grants and scholarships, and really dove into learning the fine art of applying for things, which is a really important part of the journey. And through that, I figured out, well, I could utilize that to, pay the tuition and and go to school where I want to go and get my arts degree. And so I did that. Um, so I spent nearly 5 years in Kansas, spent another 3 years in New Mexico, where I got my BFA, and then I transferred and I got my MFA at the University of Wisconsin Madison. By that time, I was a pro at school and learned how to apply for a fellowship to receive funding to go through grad school. Um, and so I got my graduate degree in 2011. And then there's a whole story of what's come between that point, when I graduated until the point where I'm at now, 10 years later, where I'm able to sustain myself solely with my art career.
Yep, and I can resonate with being in college and going through the journey, and and it is important to be able to apply for those opportunities that we see, especially as they continue to emerge more in the indigenous world, but also Indian country.
Hmm.
Um, and so I know a lot of American Indian youth constantly need help with guidance on where to find those as well. And so, you talked about the kind of stages you've been through, but also what were some of your biggest takeaways um, in terms of things that you learned or lessons learned as you kind of journeyed through college and before that.
um, some of the, I guess, the biggest lessons that I learned from, the portion of the story that I shared with you, which was just, the educational journey. There's all sorts of professional development learning that comes after that educational journey. But in those early years, I think some of the biggest takeaways for me were um, one, trusting the folks that love me and support me, trusting my mom and what she had to say and what she had to offer. My mom also was the one who put a picture of Haskell on the refrigerator. And
Mm.
for like a couple of years, or maybe even longer, this is where you're eventually going to go to school. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, mom. Um, listen to mom, or listen to the folks that have your back and want to see you succeed. Generally, they're thinking about your long-term health and well-being, and so it's important to open your ears and your heart when they give you suggestions. Um, Try and extend yourself to do things that feel uncomfortable or scary. The biggest achievements in your life and the biggest moments of growth are going to come from the times that you walk through that fear and just step one foot in front of the other towards a goal, towards a dream, towards a vision. If you don't walk through that fear, you're going to stagnate and you're not going to reach those places that you dream of. And apply, apply, apply for anything and everything that you think may help you reach your goals, or you think may help the growth and development of who you are and skill sets that will help you going forward. Apply for that job, apply for that internship, apply for that apprenticeship, apply for that grant, apply for that fellowship. Apply for them if they are geared towards Native students and education and workers, and most especially also if they are not. That's one thing that I think within our communities, we hesitate if we see that something is not necessarily geared specifically towards our communities. We'll look at these applications and we'll think, man, they're not going to pick me, or they're this, I'm not who they're looking for. But I think it's really important that we recognize that our voices should be heard in every arena and should be included in every opportunity. And so, there's such a lack of representation of Native people and voices in mainstream media and, mainstream um, um, fields, science, the arts, entertainment, all, on and on and on. The times when we see Native folks represented as successful people within those fields is so few and far between, but we can start to close that gap. And the only way we can do that is if we're willing to step into those spaces that feel like they might not be crafted for us, but that need our voices within them. So apply for everything. And in doing that, make sure that you're preparing in advance. You know, do the best you can in school, do the best you can at any opportunity you are afforded. If you're given an apprenticeship and an internship, a job, any of those things, put your best foot forward so that you have a really solid foundation for that next step. You have a really solid recommendation for, that you can lean on for the next objective.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Dyani. And I know today, today's world, you're a renowned artist, and I'm on Facebook and I see your work being uploaded, and it's always powerful and amazing to see. And I know if American Indian youth here in Twin Cities seen it too, they would be amazed as well, and they probably have. I always like buying your earrings too with the Lakota designs, themed Tiwahe, Natioshbai, family and extended family. Um, with that being said, what are you working on today that has kind of culminated from the past into now and going into the future?
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate, the kind words and support, and it really means a lot to me that, family and community members appreciate the work and that see the work and connect with it. Um, our community is my priority audience. In other words, I want my work to resonate first with Native folks, and it's important that it resonates outside of our communities as well. But because Native communities haven't been centralized or prioritized in a lot of fields, that's something that I want to give priority to first, before I extend out into the larger public. I have a large commission that I'm working on for the PAFA Museum, Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. That will be in an exhibition that doesn't open until October of 2022. But I know, but I'm really excited about it, and it's something that's pushing me into new directions, and I'm having to explore how to work with other companies and people that fabricate materials that I've never, or that I don't have any experience with. So right now I'm researching glass and mirror companies and etching companies and video and projection and all of this stuff that doesn't have anything to do with painting or beadwork, but is coming, that work is part of the continuum of my practice that was founded in the practices of beadwork and quillwork and painting. And so, as you keep going and continue to explore your creative practice and artistic journey, what's really exciting is to see the development, new things that come about that you couldn't have dreamed of even 5 years ago. I was just selected to create a piece of public art that will be within new construction on the University of Minnesota campus. They're building a new chemistry campus, or a new building. They're constructing a new chemistry building, and I was selected to be an artist to create public art within that new construction. So that's something I'm really excited about. I haven't had the opportunity to do public art yet, which is, art that's in public spaces as opposed to museum and gallery spaces. But it's something I've been wanting to do for years. And so I'm really excited to be able to create something that will be widely accessible, by the public and anybody who's on U of M campus.
For the youth that will be watching this, what is your the one thing you would want to tell them as they enter their career journeys in their lives?
I guess there's more than one thing, but I'll try to summarize some of the key points that I've learned. One is that I really believe there I really believe that each and every one of us have gifts that we've been given that are our contributions, our intended contributions to our communities and to the world. And I believe it's really important to follow that and to honor that and honor those gifts. And you honor those gifts by doing that work and you know um, doing that work. And for me, it's important that I've done that work in a way that's guided by my values as a Lakota woman. I think that when I'm making decisions in regards to work and profession, if I'm making decisions that are in parallel to my value systems, then I know I'm making the right decisions, whether or not they are the most monetary profitable decisions, or whether or not they're the most, whether or not those decisions are going to give me the most, accolades or whatnot. That's not the priority. Those things are important. Career growth is important. Making enough to pay the bills and also continue to thrive. That's important. But I make decisions that are based in my value systems as a Native woman, and that's my guiding force. And I think that when I do that, it leads me in the right direction consistently. I think it's really important to understand that none of this is immediate. I don't be careful how I say this, but I have works in large institutions that when I was a young person, I dreamt I could only dream of and didn't necessarily think was possible for me at that age when I was younger. I just had works brought into the collection of the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. They're known for not having hardly any representation of Native art. Um, I didn't know that that was possible when I was younger, but it is possible. And I'm humbled and excited by the opportunity to finally be in a place where my works are making it into spaces that have not been hosting or prioritizing or valuing Native art in the past. And those shifts are starting to come to fruition and start, that tide is starting to change. But also, it wouldn't be there had I not put in all of the hard work that I've been putting in over the years. And it takes time, commitment, development, discipline, nose to the grind, discipline to get to that place. None of it is handed to you. It doesn't happen in 1 year or 2 years. It doesn't happen just because you want it. It doesn't happen because you see somebody over there that has it and you want it. It happens because you're being true to yourself and your journey, and you're doing the work to get you there. And then you're doing that work guided by the values that are important to you. Um, what else do I want them to know? Be very careful with comparison. I think it's really important that within our communities and within our families, I feel like we really need to start prioritizing celebrating each other's wins and lifting one another up and recognizing that our journeys are not the same as our brother and sister, as our cousin, as our friend, as our neighbor, as our peer in school. Your journey is unique to anybody else's, and your timeline will not look exactly the same as other people's timelines. So comparison can be really dangerous if you're looking at, oh, that so and so got that done in 3 years, or so and so's already got this, and I don't have that yet, and or this person is so much better than me, and I might as well quit here. It's a really sticky, detrimental place to be. So when you find yourself comparing yourself to others in a way that is negative and pushes your self-worth down, recognize that, stop, and take a moment and breathe and tell yourself this isn't healthy. What I want to be doing is celebrating that person's success, looking to them for inspiration and looking at that as a goal. If that's something I want in my life, I'm going to look to that and be like, that's amazing. I want to work towards that and get there someday. And these are the steps that I need to take to do that. And I'm going to celebrate my relative's success because their success supports my success. And because their happiness is connected to my happiness, their health and well being is connected to my health and well being. And I want to see my people do well. You know, so I think that we really need to work, collectively to start to um, be very intentional about how we support one another, celebrate one another, and recognize that um, those are models for us to follow and aspire to.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Diani. There's a lot of lessons there and a lot of gifts to be heard. And I look forward to sharing this on the American Indian Family Center, social media, and just really appreciative and honored to have you here today. So thank you for being on here and sharing.
For
We
sure.
look
Thanks for
forward to
asking.